Chris, what can you tell the community? Because this is Couch Potatoes, and not all of them know who you are. Like, tell us a little bit about yourself to the community.
Uh, I am a human popsicle. If anyone is a Fifth Element fan. No, I am a filmographer, a filmmaker, a screenwriter. Currently working as an audiovisual tech. My online persona is the zealous slacker, and yeah, no, I just that's about it. Pretty
That's about
boring.
it. No, not
What?
really. I
What?
mean, like there could have been so much you could have told without telling too much about like our time during film school. You know, I was your AD, your your PA, your lighting, your everything. I was sunburned on your set. You know, like
Yeah, he was my everything. I gave him a ring, and he just he left me at the altar. He
folks,
just
if
left
you
me
tune in
at
Cinema Alley, this is nothing new of what Chris does to me. I swear to God. So that's why I kind of
He's like,
figured
God
this was
damn.
definitely going to be fun and everything. Me and Chris both went to the Art Institute of Houston together, and we didn't graduate same time, right? I think I was the first one, correct?
Yeah, you got a few months head start there.
Yeah. We started at the same time, but I there were some quarters that I took 5 classes, and God, that was a mistake. And I think I did that 2 quarters, not back to back, but I've done it for like 2 quarters. So that's what got me the head start. But I did work on his short film. It's a daunting on me. What was
Skip
the
Tracer.
Skip Tracer? Um, when will we see that?
Uh, who knows? Who
I
knows?
mean, like I let
My
people see Black
my own
Cat, and
personal.
that was not finished whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I
Yeah.
kind of got it stowed away somewhere, but
Hopefully maybe this year for my birthday, you know, when I
I mean,
do a film
I'm
festival,
pretty sure I have a
maybe.
finished cut, but
Yeah,
we'll see.
we'll sit there and see what happens there and everything. But yeah, Chris, you know, Chris does more film work. He gets more film work than I do and everything. I'm more the writer and the pair, and well, Chris is like the everyman, right? Yeah, yeah. I would probably you're
He's
about the everyman.
very
You,
versatile jack of all trades.
I thought you were
But
saying jerk of all trades, but
I mean, I can be a jack of all trades. But no, I no, I mean, I love to write too. So
yeah,
we
we need scripts to direct, and
yeah.
I've been pushing that off for quite a long time to do that, but we'll figure something else going. But on today's show, we are covering the 2019 Swamp Thing, not the 1990, because every time I type in Swamp Thing TV show, it gives me the 90s run, both live action and animated. Let them find you some work so you can get out of the house and everything. Well, for one, I need a car too just to travel, and you know, and don't you fly too sometimes? Did you ever have to do a
Oh
job
yeah.
that you had to fly? Yeah,
Oh yeah.
you're gonna have to like
Yeah.
strap me into where the carry on thing is just the
It's
kid.
not that scary, like,
I
you just
didn't.
have to get over the whole like idea of you flying in a death metal tube and, you know, putting
Yeah,
your life into some pile of sand. Once you get over that, it's fine.
yeah. I did not turn off the sound alerts on me. I figured that maybe towards the end, whoever can hit the applause, they can do it. But I do have I do have the notification up above that anyone that does spam or play one, they will get banned. Uh, I am not taking no prisoners. This like after the past couple of weeks, it's been hell. But yeah, we're covering Swamp Thing. There is a 1990s both live action and animated that I did not know of. I knew like Toxic Avenger had one, so I guess the 90s was that weird blend of like they did a live action version of a TV show and then they did an animated because they did it to RoboCop.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, they always had those like '90s comic book heroes properties like coming out of woodwork and just like TV movie crap that was really bad. But yeah, no, who did the live action Swamp Thing
I have no
in the
clue
'90s?
because I figured that we only had so much time to cover the 2019 that I didn't
Okay.
really dig deep into what what was this like. I kind of looked at some of the photos of it and I was like, oh, it doesn't look terrible. It looks decent for
Yeah.
the 90s. It's kind of I don't know. It's kind of hard to really fuck up something called Swamp Thing, and It's like, just make a swamp creature, make him green, and let him.
Hollywood has done the impossible, though.
That is true. That is true.
That's with our modern day movies and television.
Exactly. So what the main thing that we're definitely going to cover on here, because I figured since me and Chris kind of do some alley where we cover the story, that we would mostly focus on the story at hand and the characters. Chris, I actually hope you had a list for the later part, where we had to form like our own team. Like, what would you think if this TV show would have still succeeded? I don't know if you already knew the Justice League Dark. I think that's what the team is called and everything.
I'm aware of the Justice League Dark.
Okay. But you're not fully enthralled. But yeah, DC Swamp Thing starred Crystal Reed as Abby Arcane, who is a CDC doctor. Andy Bean as Alec Holland, a disgraced doctor. Derek Mears as Swamp Thing, Avatar of the Green. Pretty much Alec Holland and Swamp Thing are one and the same, but at the same time, they are not one and the same. We'll figure that out a little bit later on here in the episode when we talk about it. Will Patton, love Will Patton. He does good in everything. Plays the series main villain, Avery Sunderland, a businessman that has ties to a pharmaceutical company related to the swamp. He uses the stuff that's in the swamp for it, but at the same time, there's a lot more different elements that go into it of technically what is his investment into it. You have Kevin Durant, who is a very underrated actor, playing James Woodrow.
I love him. He's like one of the best villain actors ever. I love him so much.
I mean, like, he's amazing in almost anything that he does. Like, he
nails it.
There was a bad monster movie that he did. Not bad in the vein that it was a terrible movie, but like the CGI was just terrible. I think I introduced it to you, the through the darkness or something like that. It was like a logging town, and there is this creature going around killing people because whatever these loggers were at, they were cutting trees around his cave, and it woke the monster up. And Kevin Durant's a sheriff investigating these murders. I think it's still on Tubi. I'm gonna have to sit there and
This is not ringing a bell.
It's not ringing a bell. I could have swore I thought that I brought it up, but it's really, really good, and he does so good playing a sheriff who is trying to solve this murder or these series of murders, find this creature, but at the same time he's trying to like actually have a relationship with his son and try to save his marriage, and it's like it's a lot, and he does super, super well with it. But Woodrow would also later go on to play the Floronic Man, and one of the most... I don't know if you would sit to say it's one of the best cliffhangers, because the series did not get finished. It was cut short of its 13-episode run and only given 10. But still, that cliffhanger and those the prosthetics that he wore and everything, they were fucking amazing. Virginia Madsen as Maria Sunderland, the wife of Avery Sunderland, who is grieving over their lost child. Gerald Prescott as, and I'm going to butcher this character's name, Nemu Iwudu, who plays Madame Xanadu, who is like a fortune teller, but she's actually like one of the most powerful psychics and magic practitioners apparently in DC.
She is, I think, listed as a member of the Justice League Dark.
Yes.
I think she's been a part of that team.
Yes, she's been a part of it. Ian Zerling, which is an interesting casting because he plays Daniel Cassidy, the Blue Devil. I don't know why, Chris, but I could imagine like this would be a character you'd be into if we would have gotten one more season of this show.
I mean, I was kind of like annoyed that I'd never heard of this character before, and like I'm like, he's a stuntman that gets turned into a hero with a like cursed mask or something. I'm just like,
yeah,
I like his personality, and like he seems like a really cool guy.
Yeah. So Ian Zerling, this isn't his first DC property he's worked on. He worked on Batman Beyond. He had a small bit role in one of the episodes. Like, he was only in one episode, played a bit part character, and it's like, oh, who'd have thought he'd go back and work with DC again and do Swamp Thing as a supernatural, a not so known supernatural character. And then you have
that was only an animated show, so
yeah. Then a voice line. He probably like only went in there one day. That was it. And then you have Macon Blair as the Phantom Stranger. um, used very, very well in this series. He was only in it for 3 episodes. I do have the show notes on there for you, Chris, to like actually see everything. So if there's like any questions that we actually have lined up, yeah. So DC Swamp Thing 2019. It does really good to kind of give you that old feel of an old monster movie from like the 70s and the 80s, very much like what the comics did. But one of the key stories in this is right towards the end. It's episode 9, and it's the anatomy lesson. We're not going to get already deep into that, but that's a very important Swamp Thing episode and comic. There is so much that goes on where there is this infection or this flu epidemic that's called the green flu that is plaguing Mirai. I think it's Louisiana. I think that's where they're at in Louisiana.
Yeah, they're in Louisiana, some off-beaten town.
And Abby Arcane, the CDC doctor, is actually flown in to investigate it. She ends up running into another doctor named Alex Holland while she's going through this whole, what's going on here. We kind of start seeing the beginnings through Avery Sunderland that there is some type of business being done in this swamp, but the swamp is not a normal swamp. Like, it defends itself. This is even way before Swamp Thing is even made or conjured up and everything. And that's because this whole first episode takes its sweet time to get Alex Holland into the Swamp Thing, suit. Which I also forgot to mention Derek Mears' Swamp Thing. If no one knows who that is, he played Jason in the, what was it,
the rebooted
reboot
20,
of
2009, the
2009
rebooted timeline where you had Jared Padalecki and a bunch of other teens getting attacked by him. And I think that was a pretty badass version, Jason. So.
Oh yeah, like he kind of brought in a little bit of that Kane Hodder like aggression, but like he didn't do like the full body thing. Like Kane Hodder would like breathe, and he would make like there was just a way how Kane carried that character. I think Derek did a really, really good job. It's no Kane Hodder in my ballpark, but still he did very, very fantastic. I like to also call that film the pornography version because God, there's so much sex in it. Like when you really look at the sex that are in the original ones, you probably get maybe 5 minutes, maybe 6 of sex scenes in the old ones. This one, God, it was almost every.
Yeah, you should watch the extended cut.
Are there more sex scenes in that one?
It's longer.
Oh my
There's
God.
the extended stuff.
But
yeah.
Do you have that on your Vudu? Do you have that on your Vudu?
I don't know if I have the extended one. I think I have the regular one, but I don't know.
I'm going to look into this and be like, let's see how much sex is in this, and it's like, and does it make the movie any better than what it was?
Hey, that movie rocks. That is one of the person's favorites.
It does have a very interesting intro. Because, like, it felt like you just watched the entire movie. And bam, and you finally get hit 10 or 15 minutes in, and you finally get the title. And it's like, holy shit. And then it's like, you realize, we got another hour and a half left of this, But yeah, moving in, Abby goes in, she's investigating. She actually attaches herself, one of the characters that is at the opening of the Swamp Thing series, where he just gets, like, torn to shreds. Or no, he doesn't. He survives, but his buddies get all ripped to shreds because they're dumping something into the swamp.
Yeah, when they're like impaled and stuff.
Yeah, when they're impaled. Like the CGI looks good for a television series. For the CGI to have vines, which to me, I always find anytime you have anything of a tentacle on a made-for-TV budget, it always looks so out, And I guess like what saved them was like, well, it was nighttime and it's a swamp, so you could hide all your issues. But man, they made it look so fucking good, And, and watching
like because like this was premiering on the DC Universe app. This wasn't like a HBO thing. It was like its own separate thing, and they were putting a lot of money into
this
like
was
shows,
right
the
before,
DC Universe shows.
This was right before
like
they shoved everything from the DC app onto the HBO Max. But still, it was amazing.
Because we had Titans and the Doom Patrol and
I love Doom Patrol.
Swamp Thing. Like those were the big shows that they were putting a lot of money in,
Yeah,
and it sucks that Swamp Thing got the axe before
it could.
it could even like get
Yeah,
shown to audiences.
exactly. And yeah, and to me, I always look at it as like, really, Titan got how many seasons, and Swamp Thing couldn't even get one full one. I was like, I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
hated Titans. Titans was terrible.
that I couldn't get through like 3 episodes of that. That was like I was so bored out of my mind with Titans, and like Doom Patrol was no better to me.
What?
So and
I
like
love Doom
yeah,
Patrol. That was my therapy
I could
show.
not get into Doom Patrol. Like I really couldn't. And Swamp Thing was the only one that like hit
Okay.
me like, oh, this is really good.
I think
Like
probably right next to Doom Patrol's success, I also enjoyed what was it? The Harley Quinn one. I feel like that's like the last DC TV show property that actually people I
Harley
think.
Quinn and Young Justice. They brought back Young
Oh,
Justice, I
that's right,
think, for
Young
that
Justice.
too.
That was another good one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
for those of you guys
another
that do
one I
not
will
know,
mourn
this is the
lost.
DC universe that we're talking about. Especially to me, I feel like DC does good in television. They don't do well in film.
Yeah,
I think that's because their characters are so complex that they actually have to do TV shows, rather animated or live action, just for you to get the actual real feel. You know, I love Swamp Thing's 1980s film, the one that Wes Craven did. Adrian Barbeau, who has a cameo in the series towards the end. I loved Adrian Barbeau in that film. I was like, man, I wish I was that Swamp Thing. I was like, I get to hold Adrian Barbeau all through the swamps and but yeah, I feel like if you really look at the ratio of success, DC television does a lot better, which is I kind of think like
CW shows.
yeah. Well, the CW shows are hit and miss. I loved Arrow season 1. After season 2, it was okay, but season 3 it was all like, oh, this
Yeah,
is
they all kind of
garbage.
teetered off after like 2 or 3 seasons. Yeah.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
Flash I couldn't even finish. I know you enjoyed it. I couldn't
Well,
finish it.
I've stopped watching after season 4. Like I got a little to season 5, but then I was just kind of like,
I think
eh.
that's when I tapped out too. I was like,
Yeah,
you can't keep saying I'm the fastest man alive. It's like, dude, you're just gonna sit there and eat those words at the beginning of each episode. It's like there's gonna be another speedster. I know they changed it for one season where it was not a speedster. And I was like, wow, what a surprise! Now, if only you could do
well
this
that
every season.
yeah, that was season 4, and like I thought that was a pretty solid season, and like there was just some like things they didn't do that could have been better. But
There
like
was too
overall, I
many
think the
probably yes
Flash
men.
was maybe,
Yeah.
but I mean, it all just kind of started getting like entangled with their like crossover events, and I was
Mm-hmm.
just like, I'm not gonna get all in that.
It kind of feels like it's the same issue in which what the MCU is being criticized today for, like, oh, if you want to understand this movie, you actually have to go watch this 9-part miniseries or TV show, just to, or and you have to watch maybe so far up into the TV show in order to finally understand the movie, and it's all
Yeah,
like not everyone's gonna do that, it's
and
uh
no one wants to watch the Disney Plus app to
yeah.
check that shit out. And after everything we've seen, it's all pretty much garbage anyway.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I mean, DC right now currently is also going to be taking that. I think they're doing a far better way of how to do it, where maybe it doesn't sit there feel like you have to actually watch the TV shows in order to understand the movies, but they are still crossing over TV show and movie. So I
yeah, I
definitely
mean
can't wait to
that's
see how that's going to go.
I like if anything comes back, I feel like James Gunn would really like be the guy to bring back Swamp Thing,
Yeah.
like because this is his kind of character. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's always done like dark and weird stuff with his material and his other stories. Like
Mm-hmm.
Swamp Thing seems like right up his alley. Maybe like he'll pop up in Creature Commandos whenever the new DC
Well,
universe starts.
yeah, because like I think currently that's supposed to be the first one. Creature Commandos is supposed to be the first one. I'm sorry, we kind of spun off here and everything, but this is all going to tie into what we're talking about, because we are getting a Swamp Thing movie towards the end of the Gods and Monsters run of James Gunn, but he's doing the Creature
Yeah.
Commandos. Yes. Right now, currently, just what a lot of people are just freaking out about is we are getting a Superman movie, and then we are getting an Authority movie, and those are supposed to go hand in hand and everything. And I believe James Gunn can do it, because even something like Creature Commandos, taking a IP that is not popular like Guardians of the Galaxy and making it now one of the high end. Like, I mean, Guardians weren't even loved too much. They had their own built-in fan base once they did the um what was it, the Annihilation thing. So that's like when we got the actual team of Peter Quill, Rocket Raccoon, Drax the Destroyer, Gamora, Groot. You know, we got them, and then James Gunn just took the Annihilation stuff and did that. So I feel like James Gunn can. This is his ballpark. He can take these small properties and he can do what he needs to do. But yeah, Avery Sunderland, he's trying to sit there. There's some shady background in Swamp Thing that's going on. And pretty much leading up all the way to episode 1, we kind of get that Abby and Alex likes one another. They respect one another in their fields of what they're doing. Especially Abby definitely can see that even though Holland is not supposed to be here and it's not supposed to be doing any of this stuff, he is trying to solve what is going on here. And Abby kind of throws that aside because it's like, wow, there's someone here that can kind of speak my language. They definitely want to sit there and save these people. And she already has some relationship with Avery Sunderland because this is like her, kind of like her neck of the woods. So she already kind of has some footing here. And in the end of episode 1, Alex gets shot down from, I believe it is Avery that actually shot him. But for some reason, I think later on in the series, they try to sit there and pin it on the cop, the sheriff.
No, the sheriff's son is the one who shot Alec.
Was it?
Like Avery,
Okay.
Avery made him shoot her, or made him
Him.
shoot Alec Holland
Okay.
because of all the stuff that he had on his mom. So he felt like he had no choice. That's why later down they try to like
Yeah, the
get rid of
blackmail.
Avery.
Yeah.
Yeah, they try to get rid of the blackmailer guy.
And so Alec, you know, kind of like, you know, he falls right into the swamp, and then like the next episode, like we were starting to actually see him very much in action. I feel like definitely the series picks up once we get to episode 3, which we are now introduced to the Rot, which I had no clue what this was. This was something that was not picked up later on. It's seen sporadically because you start getting monsters and everything popping up. But Chris, read the show notes for the Rot because I actually found it was very much interesting, and it kind of answers a future question that we have down below that maybe we could try to answer.
Oh wait, no.
Yeah.
It went away. Hold on.
Oh shit! Please tell me you
That's
didn't hit enter.
No, I mean, I tried to click on it. Oh, okay, that was weird. Like I got you like large, and I got the notes on the. Holy crap, man!
Oh, okay. I know. It's quite a bit.
The Rot is a relatively new entry into the mythology of the DC Comics universe. First appearing in Animal Man #1 in November 2011. That's when the New 52 was going on, the revival. The Rot is a force associated with the decay and death, which seeks to destroy all life. The Rot stands opposed to the Red, which connects all animal life on Earth together. And the Green does the same for plant life. Okay, I didn't know about the Red.
So,
I knew about the Green stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
so
that's a whole
pausing right there. So the Rot is supposed to be kind of like just this entity of decay and everything, and so it kind of made me at first wonder if maybe this is what makes the swamps special enough that there is this thing called the Rot. So maybe it's the swamp itself having to come to life and to battle that. And so with the whole thing that what happens with Alex, you know, being shot and left in there, they completely changed the origin because the original origin, he injected himself with something that was supposed to be kind of like similar to the Swamp thing where it was super soldier serum. But I think in the comics, I think Alex was actually working on something that was, I think, supposed to help with vegetation regeneration. And he took it because Sutherland was after it. He took it and ran into the swamps. He was shot down, and that was supposed to explain the metamorphosis. Whereas this itself seems like the swamp was already an interesting, mystical, kind of supernatural element. And it took...
I mean, I was familiar with the Green because, like, the first Green Lantern, I thought, was not one of the first Lantern Corps because he was one of the first avatars of the Green. I got the what's his name? It was like the Golden Age Green Lantern. The blonde
You're
guy
talking
with the
about
cape.
Alan Scott? Yeah. Holy shit!
Yeah,
I'm surprised I know that one.
yeah. Like I thought he was the first Avatar of the Green, and like Swamp Thing was like the next thing, and they just used Alex's body to create Swamp Thing. Like,
Hmm. That
uh,
I did not know. I didn't know that there was a crossover story thing with Green Lantern and the Swamp Thing. So that's pretty interesting,
eh,
folks. If you guys actually know anything more about that, I would love to sit there and know. Uh, but uh, but yeah, so Alex, he ends up becoming like essentially the Avatar of the Green. And in episode, welcome in Yuki. In the episode where we kind of start seeing Swamp Thing like come to his own. Um, Episode 3, the rot actually starts showing that even the human bodies that are in there, they can easily be corrupted and turned into these monsters. And so to me, I'm thinking, oh wow, the remainder of this season, we're gonna start seeing other monsters.
yeah.
Kind of let down, but I still enjoyed kind of what it was. It's There's some episodes that are a bit of
TV
a
budget.
slog, but I do enjoy this concept that there is this evil entity that is not a tangible person, um, that can actually corrupt other individuals. And I know the DC movie, they changed it. The Swamp Thing movie that Wes Craven did, they changed so much of it to how Avery Sutherland even turned into a monster. That one was more just genetic experiments that he was doing. Because
Yeah.
I think in that movie, and I think in the original comics, he was a scientist. Whereas in this, he's just a businessman. Um, and Avery has his run in with the Rot later on. But again, it's not really. It's like it's more of a looming threat, but it's not the present threat in this season. Um, did you have something to add?
No, no, I'm good.
Oh, okay,
Keep going.
okay, okay.
Keep going. Yeah.
But going forward into this, one of the things that I found interesting was the moment that Jason Woodrow starts popping up. That's when we kind of start feeling that that's our villain, but he doesn't feel like a villain whatsoever. He's a very kind of weird. I wouldn't say neurotic, but he's like a lighter version of Sheldon from from Big Bang Theory. He has his own quirks and everything. Like to me, it's like you don't really sit there see too many scientists, let alone a biogeneticist that they can see exactly what flower or plant it is and immediately tell the guy go grab like a whole bunch of ice cubes, put them like I think like in a cloth or whatever, and set it on here, and it'll save this plant. Like obviously,
Yeah.
it shows that the man has a lot of care for his job, and
Yeah.
he's not
He
one of
really
those.
cares for his wife,
Yes, and that's
who's
kind of
losing
part.
her mind.
Yes, and for her, it was kind of weird at first because it was the way how they showed it. Because it seemed like she had like a better grasp of herself when they arrived in the town, and she's like, "I don't really want you doing business with this guy. This guy seems kind of bad news." And it's like, well, like maybe there's something in here that can help us. And as his investigations go through, he starts discovering that there are organisms and plant life that could help his wife with the. I don't think it's Alzheimer's or dementia, but I think it's just something else that is like a degenerative brain.
I thought it was like Alzheimer's. It was like early onset Alzheimer's.
It moves so unless like Alzheimer's can be that like I guess eat at her as quick as it did and everything
I
because it
mean, if
felt
it's
like
in bad
it was
cases,
rapid. Well, yeah.
like it's weird that it happened in such a young person like that. I mean, she's probably like mid 50s or something, or
I wouldn't
early
even sit
50s.
there. I would say probably like in her early 40s, mid 40s, somewhere around there. She looked
Uh,
pretty young,
yeah,
but that could also be
it's still
the
weird.
makeup. That's the makeup for Hollywood. It's like this
Yeah,
person's supposed to be in their 50s. It's like, really? They look like they could be 30. It's like the makeup that you caked on them. But yeah, she could be probably like right around there. And Woodrow is doing everything, even kind of starting towards the end of the series where he's just pushing that line between what is morally wrong and of course he's like over here. I don't want to get too far deep into it, and I want to kind of keep on course as we progress through here. But Alex dies. He comes back as Swamp Thing. He starts to fight off these monsters that are created from the rot. Um, and at the same time, he's actually trying to understand who he is as a person. Because at first, he doesn't really know who Abby Arcane is. He has this feeling, but then he kind of starts telling her, "I'm Alex Holland," and he would only refer to himself as that. It's all like, "Oh, I'm Alex Holland" and everything, and um, kind of thought it was pretty cool during one of the moments midway through the season where Alex is uh, he has like this plant life grow on him, and it's like it sets off like it's like an hallucinogen so that Abby can see Alec
Yeah,
as
the
Alec,
little
and
fourth.
also like, oh, this is such a good way to save on budget. I love that the filmmakers thought about this. It's
Yeah,
like pat on the screenwriter's back too for
really
thinking,
great creative endeavor there.
yeah,
Great job, guys.
it is. But also too, what I enjoy outside of that too is when later on in the series, when Swamp Thing is having his talks and he's philosophically trying to figure out how am I gonna fix myself. It's like you can see Alex outside the body talking to him as an hallucination, and so it's like a way. It is a better way of how to have a conversation with oneself without just making it look boring. He's just over here just brooding in the swamps, while everything is bubbling or whatever. It's all acting out, and it's Alex is having a conversation with himself, and that's another ingenious thing on the parts of the writers and the filmmakers to make that feel so to make that work in a way. But pretty much Alec and Abby start working together. Abby starts realizing that the deeper that she pushes into this, that the more she kind of starts tagging Avery Sunderland connected to all this stuff, that Avery is keeping her from figuring out, what's solving the green flu, which, believe it or not, they solved that pretty quick. That's like halfway through the season. They've immediately already solved by having Abby go out to where the rot is to find a sample. And even then, it goes and shows that the rot itself is taking over like a huge chunk of the swamp and almost tried to take her. And like Swamp Thing had to go save her and all sorts of things. But halfway through the season, we have established that there is this looming threat of the rot. Avery Sunderland is connected to Alex Holland's death in the transformation into the being that is known as Swamp Thing. But we also get to like meet a whole bunch of other people, like Maria Sunderland and her relationship with Madame Xanadu. I could not find the other character, the one that helps Abby, not the other CDC guy, which we don't even figure out what happened to him, because I'm guessing that was supposed to be revealed in the last 3 episodes. But it's that, and then Daniel Cassidy's Blue Devil. We kind of start to learn a little bit more about them, and he's being experimented on as well. He's trying to leave Marias, but every time that he tries to, he like I guess he kind of hits a barrier, but it also too it kind of feels like he starts catching on fire, and he does not know how to, like, oh my god, what the hell? And then the moment he comes back, he's fine. It's just this big blue flame, and these.
Well, he's got burn marks and stuff. Like he's
Yeah.
got burn damage. Like
Yeah.
he just heals quicker, I think.
What it was when Woodrow starts experimenting with all the stuff he's collecting out in the swamps, he starts adding it to Cassidy, and Cassidy's like, his whole prognosis like just starts going wild. So it's kind of weird that their supernatural is also somewhat science based. So it's kind of like the MCU, but they don't solely just call it strictly science. Like, no, it is magic. It is magic, but magic is also a form of science. Kind of like alchemy is a form of science, and blah blah blah. But yeah, we start like meeting these characters. Maria, her and Avery had a daughter. She died in, I believe, an accident. And so, Madam.
Yeah, I mean, like her and Abby Arcane jump off that bridge, and like,
okay, yeah,
and it's revealed that she didn't just drown; she got pulled down by some rot vine. Like,
okay, so then that must have been where my brain kind of like checked out of some of this series. So I'm kind of giving you guys like a chunk, like it's just chopped up very, very badly. There was a part of Swamp Thing I did tune out somehow and everything, and I'm like over here, it's like, what? And everything. It's like, I'm sorry, but there was some of it that it caught my attention, and there was some that I kind of felt it slowed down a little too much. And it's there was a bit of a pace issue between episodes like 3 and 5, but like there was still enough that my brain retained what was happening, but just not everything. Um,
Yeah. I
but
mean, it does feel like there's some fat that could have been cut off,
mm-hmm.
especially if there was like going to be a reduced episode count, but it they were trying to probably stretch it out for 13 episodes, and like they needed to do that somehow.
Well, I also kind of wondered if midway through this production, when they were stopped and they were only allowed to do 10, that maybe if some of the stuff that we were given was already cut fat to begin with, and that this was like, oh, well, we kind of need this because it kind of fits into like what was supposed to be the looming threat and
Yeah,
everything. But like, it did not make sense because it was supposed to be maybe an episode. It was supposed to be all followed up, but the writers had to go through and they probably had to retool everything, cut all probably what was a lot more engaging stuff out because it's like it's not going to get solved by the end of episode 10. We're trying to, which is funny enough because the last episode of the season is called Loose Ends.
yeah.
And it's like, oh, isn't that fucking poetic? Because
I mean, they definitely like got lucky the way they ended that episode.
yeah, it was enough of a cliffhanger that even if they only had the 10 episodes and they were to get a second season, I was like, it's enough of a cliffhanger that it's like it would make you want to come back for more.
Yeah.
But to kind of fast forward to kind of hit more of the major story beats and everything after episode 5, Maria keeps going to Madam. Madam keeps telling her, you need to stop doing this. You're tapping into some dark energy that you're not supposed to. And of course, Maria, she wants to see her, but also too, she starts working with the sheriff, who that intoed with the guy that killed Alec, who was the sheriff's deputy. They kind of start doing this whole conspiracy thing where they're going to kill Avery Sunderland. They were going to take over the company, and they were going to be done with them. It's like, because Avery's a pretty evil guy, but apparently he didn't come off nearly as evil compared to what he's now going to be, where he locks his wife up in a mental institution, and
like he's still pretty evil. he just shows it like easy. He hides it really good. Like
yeah,
he's a bastard, but like he hides it really well. So like everyone who knows him though knows what a bastard he is.
yeah. And his relationship with Woodrow and everything, he's using that guy, and I kind of felt like if we would have still gotten those other episodes, I kind of felt like maybe Avery was going to kill his wife. If it was gonna come down to something of, well, like you got your mind in the wrong place, it needs to be on business, and it's like, but let me fix that for you, and then flat out shoot his wife in the head. He's like, there, she won't forget nothing. Like I feel like Avery would have been that dude to like, do that to Woodrow, who would probably by then be Floronic Man. It was all like, now let's get back to business and everything, and yeah, Avery's a bastard. That's the best way to really put it. And Will Patton plays it so well. I enjoy. I mean, I enjoyed it when he played the villain in The Punisher, and he played like one of the first like gay villains in a comic book film too.
Oh, the John Travolta one.
Yeah, the John
Yeah,
Travolta
he
one,
was
the 2003, because he was
the right hand man.
Yeah, he was his best friend, but like through editing, he made him sit there and look like he was screwing his wife.
Yeah, and the wife goes like, "He was gay." He's like, "Don't lie to me."
He's like, "Don't lie to me." He throws her off into to get run over by a train. I love that film. That's got to be one of the best Punisher films ever. It's just people were pissy because they made the Punisher had feelings. That's like, the man did, and then he lost his family, and then he becomes a killing machine. So with that
oh, sorry. I'm just like, something that I feel like was definitely like, we were definitely robbed of, like, was the resolution between Abby and Mrs. Sutherland, when like, she blamed her the entire time for her daughter's death, when in reality, like, she didn't like do it. It was just two girls like having a fun in the river, and like she just happened to be the one that get pulled down. It could have been as easily as Abby.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like we definitely got robbed of that resolution, like of her like forgiving her, and like Abby forgiving herself. Like, that's something I feel like we could explore in the future. Maybe if we get a like season 2, maybe, but probably not gonna happen.
but like, I mean, like, even like wrapping up, because this is right when we're kind of glossing over the anatomy lesson, but we can talk about kind of like the subplots that go into it. There's one subplot we can't, which revolves around Blue Devil and the Phantom Stranger, because that ties in directly to the anatomy problem. But the story of Maria Sutherland being wrapped up very, very quick. And yeah, you know, we don't have that moment where, you know, Abby and Maria are trying to wrap things up and everything. But Avery throws her in the insane asylum, and uh, she's taken. I don't believe it's the meds at first. I actually do believe it was because she kept constantly going to Madame Xanadu and constantly trying to contact the spirit realm to talk to her daughter, to see her daughter. That I think that kind of played in a part that maybe the pills just loosened up her sanity up enough to the point where the supernatural couldn't be like, oh, good, she's weak enough. We can torture her. And then Madame Xanadu kind of puts her in this state of being where she's constantly seeing her daughters. So she's like, she's going to be locked up here for the rest of her life. I'll make it easier on you. And it's very, very heartbreaking to see that. But at the same time, too, it's like, oh, well, that kind of felt rushed. It definitely, they brushed that character. There were so many character setups here. And probably even through all the editing and cutting, it's like there's still a lot to cover. But what was it? Moving into the anatomy lesson. Do you want to cover that real quick, Chris? I know you have the notes.
Is Alec Holland alive, and can he be saved?
And that's the questions that, or we get the answers to that in the anatomy lesson. I do believe that is episode 9. So episode 8 is pretty much when they send a bunch of mercenaries out there to capture Swamp Thing. And I love the way how he dispatches them. It's like, that's so freaking poetic. Where, like, you know, he's tearing people up, and he's, well, it kind of also happens episode 10, but, you know, this is like more where he's kind of like learning his powers and everything, and, you know, that he's having people thrown up like in vines and being like freaking penetrated and all.
Yeah, when he's getting hunted and shit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then, you know, they're like, don't kill him, because, you know, Avery and Woodrow are trying to play up this whole thing of, oh, we're trying to help you, and then bam, he gets frozen and everything.
Yeah. The whole the whole question of like, is Holland alive and can he be saved? We're presented with the idea that Holland is mutated into this thing, and it's possible to be like reversed, but it's in reality, it's the Swamp Thing is a whole separate entity that absorbed the mind of Alec Holland and believes himself to be Alec Holland. And we're seeing in the final episode, those two entities, like those two beings, are separately like two individual personalities. Yeah. So no, Alec can't be saved. He's a dead body. We see his corpse, and he's fully decayed.
Yeah.
Like, in this
which is weird, because it's so rapidly decayed. It's like, how far in between was episode 1 to 9? Like, yeah, it's a swamp.
There's like fish and stuff. There's wildlife, and you know, probably the plants probably absorbed his essence.
Like, that takes a lot of fish, though, to eat your flesh and your muscle.
It looked like in the first episode, it looked like just the vines kind of like encapsulated him and like absorbed everything about him, everything that was him, and that's when Swamp Thing kind of came to be.
Yeah.
You know, like it was a physical manifestation of the Green, that the Green can finally like walk around and protect the swamp.
Yeah, because like the man's soul is gone. The man's soul's like elsewhere. It's just this plant-based. I wouldn't want to say hero. I think more anti-hero or like monster.
Yeah, probably anti-hero.
Yeah, and because it's like he does what he'll kill if need be just to protect the Green, regardless if that person deserved to die or not. Because I mean, like in the first episode, the Green didn't care if it was a child. There was a child in that boat of men. Well, not child per se, but like a teenager and everything. He looked very young, and he was dragged into the water as well. Yeah, in the first, he kind of like maybe he could be 17 or 16.
I mean, that's when they were putting the mutagen in the water.
Yeah.
So like it was being attacked.
Yeah. So it's like regardless of whatever age, it's all like, up, you're gone. It's like if there's a dog pissing in my damn bog, up, he's gone too. Like kind of what the Green feels like. but yeah, I believe the date is February 1984. That's when the Anatomy Lesson was actually written by Alan Moore for Swamp Thing Volume 2. And this episode follows that, you know, verbatim of, even though I think it was the Floronic Man already, because he was apparently a Flash villain at first. So I'm guessing he wasn't a scientist yet with the Swamp Thing comic, so he was already as the creature. But this one shows that Woodrow has yet to change. But he is actually performing an autopsy as Swamp Thing is alive and everything. And it's even freaking him out. And of course, Alex thinks he's alive. And, you know, it's... I'm trying to remember what is that... there was that one movie with the guy who played Anakin Skywalker in the prequel trilogies where...
Hayden Christensen.
Yeah, Hayden Christensen.
Yeah, we
the one
skinned
where,
that open heart surgery and
yes,
like he's awake the entire time. Yeah.
and he feels it all in there. So it's almost like that with the Anatomy Lesson where, like, you know, Alec Holland's Swamp Thing is alive and they're cracking open his breastbone and he's like, oh, like, these are your lungs. And he's like looking at it, he's like, but it's weird because there's like, you know, there's nothing to pump it or anything. And that's kind of when he starts noticing how the body was being made, that it was replicating. And D's nuts. Well, believe it or not, Scorpy, you do not see dangling nuts on Swamp Thing in this movie or this TV show. It's like, I don't think it was in the budget for dangling nuts. Thank you, though. How would that look? How would that look? Or would it technically just still be like a Ken doll, but anytime if he needed to reproduce, he could just make whatever?
They'd be like little acorns just dangling, you know, like.
Oh my, but acorns aren't in the swamp?
I mean, they're tree seeds, so why not?
Now you have them thinking acorn. Oh my god, and everything. And then of course, you know, it's almost like it's the Mr. Fantastic thing. It's like, oh, if it's not big enough, it's like, oh, well, I made a vegetation, ma'am, so I can tree these nuts. Jesus Christ, Scorpy. I know somehow Scorpio has managed to make this all about Swamp Thing's thing, you know. Now, if we were talking about Man Thing, should be talking about its giant-sized Man Thing, but with the Anatomy Lesson, Woodrow is going through. He's like brings out like the heart, the lungs, liver, everything that is replicated. I am sorry, you're not sorry whatsoever. They bring that out, and then for some reason he just takes it home. He's like, I'm gonna take this home. This is pretty damn cool. And
yeah, I'm gonna do actual science and cook it in the skillet and then eat it. That's science, bro.
Am I the only one that got Hannibal vibes out of that?
Yeah, no, you're not.
It made me think of Hannibal whenever he's like cooking up Ray Liotta's
His wife
brain.
is sitting there paralyzed, obviously not able to consent to whatever the hell he's about to do, and like he's about to like shove this Swamp Thing heart into her mouth.
Yeah.
Before Abby comes up and like stops him and gets him arrested,
but even by then he had already tasted it, and then like didn't he?
Yeah.
And then I thought for a moment that like his whole like, you know, him spasming out, I was like, oh, is he changing? And I think like he was tased and everything, because at that time she was calling the cops, but the cops came because I guess like they traced the call. He
started spazzing out, I think, at the beginning, didn't he? Like when he first ate it, and then
I kept thinking,
and then the cops came and tased him.
But I think like they came and they just tased the shit out of him, and it's like, what the hell? And to me, it's like, look, nowhere in any reality were the cops able to come at that. It's like you could order a fucking pizza and that shit will come quicker before any officer, regardless.
Yeah, no, I think he had a weird reaction when eating it, and then later, towards the end, the cops came and tased him.
Yeah, and you know, by then, you know, Abby is like over here. It's like, you know, I tried to stop him. Da da da. He's arrested, and then we don't really see much of anything.
Lost his freaking mind.
Yeah. But also, too, you don't see the wife anymore because, well, you know, we were supposed to get 13 episodes during the production.
She's at the hospital getting treated.
Yeah.
For her overdose.
And because that was the thing. She was overdosing and everything on her medication. And the thing is that it sucks because there's so many wonderful characters that are written in this, and so much of them have had such a shitty end. You know, like maybe not too much to say shitty end, but it was just rushed. And it felt like, we maybe needed one more episode to properly wrap these guys up.
The sheriff getting shot and then
Yeah.
tossed in the back of the trunk and
I
drove it into the swamp.
Now I was actually
She
hoping
she did
Swamp Thing
not
was
get a
going to
good ending.
show up. No, she did not. That was a terrible death to
She's dead.
suffer. Yeah,
She's
she's
definitely
gone
dead.
and everything, um, this kind of goes through when we start talking about episode 10, but we're still on the anatomy lesson. The anatomy lesson, we get more of the Phantom Stranger talking to Cassidy, who's in the hospital, and tells him, or he shows him a possible future in which Abby and her friend, which is what Cassidy's love interest is, um, they're getting gunned down by these mercenaries, and he tells them you can actually change it, and he shows them it's the mask of the Blue Devil and everything. He's like, oh, the Blue Devil's a character I played in Hollywood. It's like, it's like, what is this gonna do? And I'm thinking, I was like, are they gonna try to do a real quick like 180 and have it where like technically the Blue Devil is not a supernatural individual? He's just some dude in a mask. And then no, it's like he was already having the blue flames earlier in the series,
Yeah.
like just consume him before Woodrow's wife had to like knock his ass out. And so now it finally comes to fruition. He puts the mask on, he turns into the devil, and I thought for a moment he was sucking these men's souls out because it looked like it. Because he was aiming for their
Uh,
mouths. You know, when you
I thought he
looked
was
at
just
it,
lighting them on fire with his dragon
that's
breath
what he
or
was
some
doing
shit.
because
Yeah.
um, he ends up in this last heroic thing where the guards are like, like you need to come out of that closet and everything, and it's like, how the hell did you guys get stuck in a closet and everything? And like the guys were able to hear you only because of the sound of a bucket being kicked. That was it. And I was like, a little kind of suspension of disbelief is kind of pushing it here. But yeah, no, they come and everything, and the Blue Devil comes along, and to me, it's all like, guys, you've dealt with a swamp thing, and it's like, and you hear something growling, it's like I would probably run for the hills. I would not be
What
threatening
else could it
whatever.
be? We have the
Yeah,
swamp thing captured.
yeah. It's like, well, you kind of think maybe what else did Avery fucking made out there? Um, and he comes through. He's setting guys on fire. He's grabbing them by the throat and burning fire down their throats. Which that I think that was 5 years post Godzilla 2014. Because remember, Godzilla did it to the female Muto where he shot the atomic
Oh
breath in
yeah,
like the head. So I looked
yeah.
at that too, and I was all like, "Oh, Godzilla!" It's and I did like that they kind of hide maybe some of the practical effects, but they went almost as practical as they could.
Yeah.
Like this series probably the only time that you probably saw major CGI was when the vines in the swamp were coming to life. That was it. Swamp Thing himself, that felt like that was all practical until like they had to animate something on him. It was done all very, very well, and I know it feels like we're rushing this, but also too, we don't want to keep Chris too long and everything, but at the same time too, I don't want to run too long because I have like 40 freaking pages I need to read after this. But yeah, the other supernatural characters: Blue Devil, Daniel Cassidy, Madame Xanadu, the Phantom Stranger. I almost thought the Phantom Stranger also popped up in the Legends of Tomorrow or the Arrowverse. Um,
I was not familiar with the guy. I just kind of thought, oh, this is like a Nick Fury character, probably
yeah,
coming around to connect all the shows or some shit.
yeah. Well, so that kind of comes into something later that I actually want to talk about. But when we finally get to the final episode, Woodrow is gone. Uh, Blue Devil has already made his appearance through little quick shots of of what we saw there. Madame Xanadu, again, another supernatural character that we kind of get a good feeling. I already kind of feel like we're building towards a Justice League Dark or some form of a supernatural team up and everything that we're starting to fill out this universe. And then episode 10 comes, and Alec is getting ready to take care of the one guy that was doing business with Maria, and then decided to join the business with Avery, but try to take the business away. Yeah, Swamp Thing like rips through all these mercenaries as they are coming after him. There's like a dude who gets like, I think it was what's his name from Starship Troopers. He's another like I guess you wouldn't say big name actor, but like his father was much more famous than he was. He did like the sequel to The Hitcher. Oh my god. it's dawning on me what his name is, but he had a cameo and he was one of the mercenaries. Um, you know the uncle from Silver Bullet? No, fucking
Never saw
hell.
Silver Bullet.
You never saw Silver Bullet? He's the one actor where like his face is all fucked up after that motorcycle accident. Not Mark Hamill, but you know he's like generally insane. He's like he like looks like that and everything. I'm trying to fucking figure out, but either way, it's his fucking son because he was in Starship Troopers. He was along with Rico and all them, and I think he ended up getting
Are you
killed
talking
by
about Gary Busey?
Gary Busey's son. Yes,
He was in the show?
yes. He was in the last episode because he was the head guy. He had like the hat on. He was the head merc
What?
dude. Yeah. I didn't believe it too until
No.
after I looked up the casting. But yeah, man, that was a terrible, terrible rendering of Gary Busey's like face like that. It's like it's so terrible. I mean, if I fucked up my hair anymore, then like yeah, you guys would probably have understood it. But Jake Busey. So Jake Busey's son, or Jake Busey was in that, and he played the dude, and he was the one that got his jaw ripped off and everything because like the moment that Swamp Thing had him in and had him circled into like this little tight area to fight from them, he's throwing them around and everything. But right before that, Jake's all like, "I got this," and bam, he gets like his whole jaw ripped off, and it's like, oh my god, this is gonna get gory, and that's exactly what he did. It was not as much as comical compared to Doom Patrol, where their gore can be very much laughable, like Evil Dead, you know, where it's so gory but it's so funny because it's the comicalness.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
okay.
in it.
I was
It's a
like,
very brief cameo.
I totally missed that.
I missed it too until I was doing the last minute research today, kind of like looking like, oh, who's like cameo appearances, you know, all that, and they're like Jake. I was like, Jake's in this, and it's like he was the merc that got his jaw ripped off. Say Bussy one more time. What the hell? I have to head out, but this has been a great conversation. Y'all have a good night. Have a good night, Mini Class. Thank you so much again for being here. We'll plug Mini Class in towards the end of this. But yeah, so Jake Busey gets his jaw ripped off. He freaking dies. Everyone in there is pretty much getting their shit ripped out of them. And then the main dude that has been screwing the Sutherlands over to do what he wants to do, he ends up being left like a message. It's like, stay out of the green and everything. And he's the only one that survives all of this, and he sends them off. And that's kind of pretty much where the series ends. It's like Abby already is being told because she was shown Alex's body, and he's like, I'm not Alex Holland. And he's like, well, what are you going to do? And it's like, I need to protect the green by all costs.
I'm gonna take these gloves off, man. I'm gonna throw down. Basically, what happened.
But yeah, like it's more or less it's like it's that concludingness, or more or less it's that point of a story, because really the story's not even finished. It is a point of the story in which our hero has now understood his purpose in the world, and now it's like, this is what I'm going to be. You know, this is the moment where Christian Bale is like, I'm Batman. You know, even though that was so early, I think that was midway through Batman Begins when he finally said that. But still, you know. That's what it is. And then we get the credits, and I'm like, wait, what? I was like, I thought that there was something else. And then cues the police scene when the sheriff's son shows up and everything, and you know he's looking out, and he finds that like all these cops are dead, and he's like, what's going on? And then he goes and he looks, and it's Woodrow as the Floronic Man in this epic cliffhanger. And then the guy is firing and screaming, and you can hear him being ripped to shreds. I almost thought Woodrow was actually eating one of the cops for a moment, because there was like this wet
looked like,
sound
to me, that like I thought he was like, you know, he had just finished killing him, and it looked like he was like doing something to his body, like
yeah,
maybe like creating like maybe a plant like zombie or something.
kind of like what the rot did with the dead bodies, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, for one, is he eating him? Two, if he's not eating him, what the fuck is he doing to him? Because, you know, with him being a biogeneticist and him loving to cut into shit, what if like he was able to get his hands to like form to like mini scalpels and like other instruments just to like, you know, and, I mean, he looks like a much more pissed off version of Groot. That's what he looks like. It's so good though, to what he looks like. And I really wonder if they're going to bring him in for the Swamp Thing movie. Of like, oh, we're
I
going to do the
mean,
anatomy lesson, and that's going to be it, you know, or like if they would save that for a later sequel and just treat Avery as the main villain. But what is your thoughts on the overall story so far from the 10 episodes that we got? What did you think overall of Swamp
I
Thing?
thought it was a solid start to a great little story. Like I'm excited. I was excited to see like where the show was going, and you know, it's a bummer that it was canceled. So
Yeah.
like yeah, I think where it was going was obviously like there's gonna be like a showdown between the Swamp Thing and the Floronic Man, and like Abby Arcane was obviously gonna lose her job at the
CDC.
CDC because she refused to check in and never do her
I know,
job. She was
right?
there for like 2 days, and she cured the girl, and she found out what was going on, and her job was like, "Where are you? Why aren't you coming back?"
But
So
like, I
I
think
mean, she
wasn't
was obviously
weren't they what they gonna do is send her off to like another location? Either way, it's like, well, just send you off to
something
another
like that,
job.
but she
Yeah,
kept trying to tell him like there's something else going on here, and I need to investigate it. And their new boss was like, "No, you need to just check in and tell us what the hell's going on, and then come back."
yeah.
Uh,
Well, I mean, like even like the villain guy that was fucking over the Sutherland trio and everything, um, even they were just like, he was connected to the CDC too. So you don't really know who he is. All we know he's a powerful man and that he's probably government related.
yeah,
And you know he has ties to sway the CDC. I mean, Abby's partner in the CDC was picked up after like they had like a drunk night of drinking like beer and wine and eating pizza, vegan pizza, I think at that, and like
is it?
the guys were like asking, "Are you such and such?" He's like, "Yeah, why are you asking?" and everything, and like they just grabbed him and just freaking threw him into the van, and you never see him again. You know, maybe that's what episode 13 was gonna tackle. Where did he go? You know, um, but uh what could have been we're going over here to the final thoughts. What could have been with this show? I don't know too many of the Swamp Thing's villains, and with today's research I found out there's so much history. It's kind of like discovering the Sandman stuff. It kind of feels like it's in that vein of like it's not very well known villains or a world, but like there is so much to explore. Like apparently Abby and Swamp Thing have a kid when Swamp Thing possesses John Constantine and they fuck. And so the kid has like
No.
earth elemental superpowers, but the thing is that since it was mated through Constantine and he had that devil pack, she's half devil or half demon and everything. So it's a pretty powerful kid. And there are other Hollands. There's like other family members from like the past that apparently somehow like they come through like a different Earth, and they become a villain. And yeah, it's like oh my god, there's so much to go through. And then Avery Sunderland becomes like a like kind of like a Neanderthal body, but like he ends up like being part of the Rot. Like the Rot, this is like all New 52 stuff. And we kind of all know with modern day comic book adaptations, it's very rare that they ever go to anything that's from like the actual origins of like the 70s or 60s or whatever, depending on what the property landed. They like to just adapt what's the recent stuff so that it kind of it speeds the audience up that oh this is where we're at, but also it brings in kind of like some of the younger audience and some of the current like oh we're reading this current version of it, and hopefully like maybe we can get like new readers onto those and try to help sell. Well, I doubt it helped sell the New 52 because that was a class failure. Like from what I heard,
Yeah.
New 52 had some good stuff, but it was a failure all
I
around.
mean, it has Scott Snyder's Batman, and that's like one of the best runs ever. So,
Yeah, that was the intro of the Court of Owls, if I remember right. Correct?
yep.
Yeah, that was probably one of the great things about it. That one. Oh no, this was before New 52 with the Pig. I forgot who did it. He's a British author who did Professor Pig. Um,
Mm.
yeah, but my brain's flicking on that author and everything. I have his mind because he's a bald headed British dude. He looks like he could be like an evil version of Professor Xavier. But he's done plenty of comics. He did the what was it? The Arkham comic, the one where it's like a big abstract thing, and it's like Batman goes into the asylum and he gets put on court. A serious Arkham, a serious something on Serious Earth. It's one of the Elseworld books. That's all that I can try to remember. But I I'll figure it out later. And oh wow, my notes. What do you think could have been for a season 2? Do you think season 2 would have been all Floronic Man and him battling that in the
I
Rock?
mean, I don't think Floronic Man was gonna last past season 1. I think Floronic Man was gonna be like the end chapter, the bookend
Yeah.
villain for this season, and like the gray was gonna, or the rot was gonna be like the main overarching thing for the entire series. I think I read that this they had like a 3 season plan, so that's, and
Yeah.
I'm really not sure what the like villains are for the Swamp Thing, but like I'm sure they would have introduced more like Justice League Dark characters and like
Yeah. Because like even then, it's like, could Swamp Thing sustain itself as a show, or would it sooner or later be put into a Justice League Dark show? Because we already had the Constantine show going on too at the same time. That was supposed to be a guaranteed 13 episode show, and I think we only got 8.
yeah, they cut that short too, but that was because that was on NBC and NBC sucks. So
Nothing but cancellations.
yeah, they always cancel cool things, jerks, and they always keep the crappy crap.
Well, I mean, the only thing that they actually kept that was pretty good was The Office going. But even like the
They
last
kept The
season, to me,
Office.
the last season was probably the most terrible. But I enjoyed the finale of that.
They have
You know.
like one good show on every few years, and then they like
Yeah.
strike gold with another show, and
Like 30.
everything else
Was it
they
30 Rock
yeah.
going at the same time, or was that after The
30
Office?
Rock was 30 Rock, Parks and Rec, I think The Good Place,
I thought
yeah,
that
and
was
The
ABC
Office.
that
Like,
did The Good Place.
I thought that was NBC. Double check that. But
It gets confusing when it comes to those two, because like their style of shows, they blend in so easily. Um, so this is
yeah,
more
they
or
were
less
NBC.
this is just, I wouldn't say it's fan casting, but it's comic book casting. So if we were to actually get a Justice League lineup in this universe, uh, what would your team be? Or do you have already a team made up of who would have been your Justice League
I
Dark?
mean, obviously John Constantine, Dead Man, Swamp Thing, Etrigan, and Detective Chimp. Also Zatanna, I guess.
I've never heard of Detective Chip
For
until today. I was like, what the fuck?
yeah, look him up. He's a pretty interesting character. He's a
So
pretty cool guy.
mine was, at least for this universe in this world, that essentially Swamp Thing would have sat there and set up him and Madame Xanadu as actual members. That maybe Xanadu would probably be kind of like that headquarters, like, she would be like their scry, of anything. But I did add Deadman, Zatanna, and John Constantine to the team. I didn't want to add Etrigan because I was like, Swamp Thing's already the heavy hitter. Do you really need 2 heavy hitters?
Yeah, but like, I mean, I feel like that's kind of the Hulk version of their character,
Oh, is
like
Etrigan?
yeah, because he's
Yeah,
like he's a dude that's like Jason Blood and Etrigan, like they're the same character. Like he
and they're
has to call
rhyming.
upon Etrigan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which, like, even watching like the Justice League Dark, one, I definitely enjoyed seeing Etrigan's like speech patterns, like how everything rhymed. And I was like, oh, I bet you that was a bitch for the screenwriter, and hell, just the comic book writers all in general. It's like, shit,
it's
what
a
the hell
fun
rhymes with
challenge.
session? Session, what rhymes with session, man? And then like the guy's like, possession, yes, and it's like, it's working that up. But I did put the maybe later. I did put Etrigan the Demon and Doctor Fate. I kind of felt like maybe it was a little too much to sit there and say, oh, Doctor Fate would be the reason why the Justice League Dark team would form, because like that's like kind of doing a cop out of like Doctor Strange form in the Midnight Sun. So to me, I would think Madame Xanadu would probably have sat there and foreseen a threat that, it's like, we need more people like us and everything. And she would probably go reach out to John Constantine and Zatanna, and Zatanna would bring in Deadman, and John Constantine's like, well, we kind of need a little extra muscle. It's like, do you have anyone in mind? And Madame Xanadu would probably be like, oh, I got someone just in mind. Cue Swamp Thing, you know. Other than that, I feel like John would be like, I got a demon, but, you know, he's kind of flaky at some point. You know, you could have easily nodded at Etrigan somewhere. It's like,
I think there was a run of Justice League Dark where Wonder Woman like joined the team and like
yes,
led the team or something. Like I thought that's
the
a
new
cool
run.
idea.
That's the new run that they're doing. I think they're like 26
Yeah,
issues or something into that.
because she's magic based and like that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah. But with that being said, folks, we are gonna actually sign off and everything. Thank you, Chris, again, so much for that. Like, there was so much potential with this show, and like everything else that WBD does, they shit it out because they don't like nothing good. They only like to buy properties and sit there and put themselves under. Thank you, David Zaslav. And I say that with so much animosity too. Our next recording, well, I kind of have a date in mind for the 24th of April. Me and MIDI class, hopefully, are going to be covering the first 2 seasons of Yellow Jackets. I've never seen it, but MIDI told me it was a really good show. A lot of people were telling me, oh, you got to really watch that. And I was like, all right, well, I'll try it out and everything. It's like, maybe we'll do Couch Potato on it. And I was like, if MIDI class is up to, and I think MIDI said yes, but I don't want to sit there. I don't want to confirm everything yet. But we are going to be covering Yellow Jackets. I definitely cannot wait to sit there and try this show out. Super excited. It kind of reminds me of the what is it? Not the Papua New Guinea, but it's the recent movie that they did where it was it was the people from Uruguay that get like that their plane crashes and they were eating all the dead people in order to survive. It kind of feels like that's what Yellow Jackets is, but like it goes back and forth between modern day and then the event that happened when I think there was like an accident with like these.
I've never heard of this at all, but I mean I've heard of Yellow Jackets, but I don't know what it's about. And...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, who knows? Maybe we'll have watch parties. I do know. I think we're doing a watch party in East's Discord for the first 2 seasons. So, if you can find out a way, then you know we can all just try to sit there and have some type of a discussion on it. But you know, it was great. It was great having you here, Chris, and everything. I guess like, are there any other? I guess DC TV shows that other people should check out? I should probably ask that. It's like, are there any other TV shows you think people should try out?
If no one's seen Young Justice, check out Young Justice.
That's a good one. That's
try to bring that back for a 5th and final season. Yeah.
Yeah. I would love it if they would have did a Batman Beyond TV show again. Live action.
Yeah. Or get an animated movie from the creators of the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse guys. Mm-hmm. That'd be pretty good.
That'd be pretty good and everything. But thank you guys so much again for watching. Thank you, Chris, again so much for being here. And thank you, guys, again. Like, you guys were like a little bit more communicative here in chat and everything. So it's like, I was like, oh, it's like we can bounce off. It's like, even though, yeah, Scorpio was talking about Swamp Thing's thing, but you know, we're not.
There's always that one guy.
Jesus, how, like, I just sat here. How are we gonna start a conversation like that? You know, that's where you need the Peter Griffin. Bye. Listen. Oh my God.